America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brooke Lovett will lead us in prayer.
Almighty God, you who are the source of our love, presence alone we find help, hope, and life. Guide us during this hour of fellowship and reflection, be grounded with a healing reminder of your love to all whose lives you touch this day. For it is in your glory we gather and offer our prayers. Amen.
Please be seated. Good morning. I'm Tim Forbes, the chairman of the Rensselaer County Honor Deceased Veteran Committee. We've gathered here this morning to honor deceased Rensselaer County Veteran of the month of July, and that veteran is Francis A. Pichet. We're honored to have with him this morning his family, Diane and Steve Corey, Brian and Gregory Pichet, Madeline Pichet, Tom and Diane Walsh. Thank you all for being here. Also with us to honor our Veteran of the Month is our County Executive, Steve McLaughlin, representing Congresswoman Elise Stefanik Joshua Williams, Congressman Paul Tonko, former Congressman Michael McNulty, New York State Senator Jake Ashby, New York State Assemblyman Scott Bendet and John T. McDonald III. The chairman of our Rensselaer County legislation is Kelly Hoffman, Vice Chairman Robert Loveridge. Our Rensselaer County Court Judge Deborah Young is here. From the Waterville Arsenal, Colonel Fisher. Legislators that are present, Dan Casale, Mark Fleming, Tom Grant, Kelly Hoffman, Lori Kennedy, Robert Loveridge, Carol Weaver. As we are all well aware, Memorial Day and Veterans Day are special days to remember all of our veterans. This program was created to help us honor our veterans all year round. To us here in Rensselaer County, every day is Veterans Day. The Rensselaer County Honor Deceased Veteran Program represents veterans organizations throughout the entire county. This includes members of the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, the Veterans of Lansingburg, the Military Order of Purple Heart, the Marine Corps League, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Korean War Veterans, Tri-County Council Vietnam-era Veterans, Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, Vietnam Veterans of America, the AMVETS, Crab Garrison Post number 1954, and our own Rensselaer County Veterans Service Agency. I will now ask Kelly Hoffman, the Rensselaer County Legislative Chairwoman, to come forward to tell us about our honored Veteran of the Month, Francis A. Pichet. Kelly.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah. Hi, Tom Walsh. I said hi, Tom Walsh. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Hoffman, Chair of the Rensselaer County Legislature, and I want to welcome all of you here this morning. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July, celebrating our nation's birthday. We're able to celebrate patriotic holidays like this, like the 4th of July, because of the freedoms granted to us by the sacrifices of our folks in military and our soldiers. Today, we remember and honor a soldier who bravely served during World War II, a pivotal time in our history. Today, we gather in honor to celebrate the life of Francis A. Pichet, a dedicated veteran and cherished member of our community. Born on May 12, 1927 in Troy, Francis was one of 4 children of Louis and Beatrice Pichet. He grew up in Troy alongside his sister Betty and brothers Louis and John. Francis attended Troy Public Schools, and shortly after his 17th birthday, he answered the call to serve his country by enlisting in the United States Navy on June 15, 1944 in Albany. Seaman Pichet served with distinction aboard the USS Oklahoma City and reported for duty, arriving at Pearl Harbor on May 2, 1945. On May 22nd, the ship sailed for Naval Base Ulithi in the Caroline Islands on June 6th, joining other carrier ships to support the Okinawa campaign. Throughout June and in early July, Francis's ship provided long-range radar warning and anti-aircraft cover for the 3rd Fleet carriers during intense air operations against the Japanese forces. In mid-July, the ship bombarded enemy radar installations near the entrance of Tokyo Bay before rejoining the carrier task group and continued action against the Japanese islands. As hostilities ceased and World War II officially came to an end on September 2, 1945, the Oklahoma City patrolled off the coast of Japan until September 10th. After 72 days of continuous steaming, she entered Tokyo Bay and remained on occupation duty until January 10, 1946. She then returned to the United States, arriving in San Francisco on February 14th. On June 10, 1946, Seaman First Class Pichet was honorably discharged from the United States Navy at Lido Beach, Long Island. For his service, Seaman First Class Pichet received the World War II Victory Medal, the American Campaign Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal with 2 Bronze Service Stars, and the Navy Occupation Service Medal. Francis returned home and married Audrey Dunson on December 15, 1946 at St. Patrick's Church. Together, they had 6 children: Francis, Colleen, Lori, Paul, Diane, and David. Francis supported his family through his work at Ford Motor Company in Green Island, where he worked as a floor inspector until his retirement in 1977 after 30 years of service. Francis was a family man and spent much of his time with his family, especially enjoying the company of his many grandchildren. Sadly, Francis passed away on March 2, 2005, and he is buried at St. Jean's Cemetery in Brunswick. He leaves behind a legacy of love and dedication, cherished by his wife of 58 years, Audrey, and their 6 children, 24 grandchildren, and 16 great-grandchildren. Today, we salute a life marked by courage, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to both country and family. Francis Pichet will join a long list of Rensselaer County veterans that we have recognized at this ceremony. And on behalf of all of my colleagues here at the legislature, I want to thank the Pichet family and the Walsh family for allowing us to remember him here today. And now, Colonel Walsh always has a little description about what happens once a year here on our Hall of Heroes, but I know this is somewhat special to you because he was a family member, so I'd like to introduce Colonel Walsh.
Thank you. I hope you can all hear me all right back there. My voice hasn't improved anything. But anyway, I've known Fran for many, many years. I remember when he went in the Navy, he was going with my cousin at the time. And I remember when he came home, I was only 11 years old when he came home. And he was a small man, like his father. He looked just like his father. And anyway, his uniform was small, and I was 11 years old. He gave me his uniform, and I wore it, and it fit. That's how small he was. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we got really good friends with Ord and Fran. We were so close that they asked my wife to be the godmother of Diane, and that's who she's named after. Yeah. I could tell you a story all day long about Franny. We went on a cruise together, and we had a ball. We went off to 5 different islands in the Caribbean, and he had us in stitches all while we were there. Things he made funny. He had a dry sense of humor, very dry. But the things he done that were not too smart, like he was telling his wife that we're on the ship. He says, "I'm gonna go over here." He said, "Meet me up." So about an hour later, they finally meet up. He said, "I told you to meet me up." She said, "After." She said some colorful language. She said, I was never in the Navy. I don't know what half is." So anyway, he did find him. Yep. Fran was a good cook. He did things different. He, he didn't like blood, so he always washed his hamburger. He washed the blood out of the hamburger. I said, "Fran, that's all the flavor." But you know what? His meatballs were really good, and I really liked them. I never had anything that tasted like his meatballs, but it was very good. So, anyway, Diane, we're going to honor Fran. His name will be on a plaque up here. You'll be, yeah, no. And this is our Hall of Heroes. We have 15 Medal of Honor winners we honored here, plus about 300 deceased veterans on that wall over there. And he'll be one of them. So, anyway, let's talk to you later.
Thank you all. I will now ask Rensselaer County Executive Stephen McLaughlin to come forward.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here today with colleagues in county and state, federal government, and to join with you to just say thank you to Francis and to honor him. And this is Colonel Fisher's last official ceremony with us. He shows up at every one of them. So I also want to thank Mike McNulty for getting these started way back when. They still continue today, and a lot of other counties have followed up on that and doing their own as well, which is fantastic. We even see a lot of towns doing this now as well. But listen to the stories about Francis. It sounds like he was small in stature but large in patriotism, and that's what's important. And interestingly, I was watching the Pacific and then Masters of the Air, two great shows, and it seemed like all those guys back then were small, thin, wiry guys and tough as nails. And they simply did save the world back then. He was into some interesting times back then toward the end of World War II. That's about when my dad was in Japan as well as a radio man. So right toward the end of World War II, who knows, they might have crossed paths way back then. But interesting times, interesting man. And as Jake and I were just saying, he did what so many of those men did, and women. They came back home, took the uniform off, went to work, and put on a different uniform and just raised kids. And what a legacy. How many grandkids? 24? Last you knew? That sounds like a Troy thing, too. And then he lived most of his life over in Green Island.
Well, Troy and then Green Island.
Green Island, which we call West Troy. Right, Michael? Is that West Troy? Used to be West Troy, way back when. Used to be West Troy. Back in the day. But it's all part of the same tight-knit community around here in the Capital Region. All right? Everybody's connected. If they're not related, they're connected somehow. They all know each other. So we see that all over this area, which is a wonderful thing. But thank you for letting us honor him today. It sounds like he led just a great life, and we're honored to be able to honor him here today. And the reason that park is out there, that memorial, is just to show our respect to Francis and every other one of our veterans, because we respect and love them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I will now ask Joshua Williams from Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's office and Congressman Paul Tonko to come forward.
Thank you, Tim, and good morning, everyone. Tim, thank you for the work you and the selection committee do to provide for individuals' names so that we can say thank you. And Diane, it's a great opportunity, an honor, to recognize and pay tribute to your dad for the work that he had done through the Navy, the service he had provided. So we honor Francis Franny, Alfred Pichet, and rightfully so. People who don the uniform, oftentimes lying about their age to provide. Yeah, Diane shared that with me, but that just showed his passion to serve and the tremendous service that he provided. And I thank Mike McNulty for having put together this now tradition in many counties. And so it is so appropriate that we take the time to say thank you to those who served in uniform. And, his service as a young man who left the comforts of home and the familiarity of hometown to serve in the Navy speaks of great character and great service and certainly undeniable patriotism. And so we recognize that here this morning. We recognize his passion to be in the military. We talked about the impact that the attack on Pearl Harbor had on him, Diane. And so with great emotion and, again, great patriotism, went forward and served and worked in, did his duty in the Pacific Theater, which was not easy. And was recognized with several medals, which he had earned, including the World War II Victory Medal and the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal. So great recognition of an individual who gave it his all and came back to enjoy the comforts of his home region and to be able to be strongly committed to the work that he did at Ford Motor and taking those skills that he undeniably learned in the military and transferred them over to work here in the great U.S. So, you know, just a classic example of the greatest generation. Those who believed in service were very humble about that service, didn't talk about it oftentimes, but made a terrific contribution. And so we're honored to be able to join in this ceremony today. I thank Kelly and the Rensselaer County Legislature and Steve for the opportunity to join with everyone today and to be joined by Josh from Congresswoman Stefanik's office so that we can offer our humble thanks. So in recognition of Franny Pichet's service to this nation and all for which she stands, freedom and possibility and opportunity, we ask that a flag be flown over our nation's capital in his name, in his memory, in his honor. And my hope, my prayer is that he rests eternally with his Creator and that many, many stars follow that name. So God bless him. So it's great to join with you and your husband, Steve, and the Godfather, Tom, for the great work that your dad did and to recognize it here this morning. So God bless him. Josh, want to say anything?
I did, I saw that. License plate 0 with. There's another one, yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. I will now ask New York State Senator Jake Ashby to come forward.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you. I want to thank Congressman McNulty for giving us our start here, along with several other counties. I want to thank Colonel Fisher for his dedication to coming to these ceremonies and being such a large part of our community. And he does his due diligence. He just doesn't come to Rensselaer County. He goes across the river to Albany County too. And those are just the ones that I know about. So I'm sure there's others too. He's just done a phenomenal job, not only at the Arsenal, but outside in the community at large. And I want to thank you, Colonel. Thank you for continuing to be a part of it. And I know that you will continue that afterwards, even after you leave the Arsenal. I want to thank my partners in state and local and federal government as well. And I want to thank the family for letting us honor Francis today. And what a remarkable life, really. But at an early age, at the age of 17, choosing to enlist, and during his time in service, not something that I think many of us can really understand at this time, the scale of what the world was going through at that time, and for a 17-year-old to be front and center and really enduring a lot while he was in the Pacific. And many of the men and women who served in the Pacific during that time, I was talking with Steve about it, you know, they stayed after they were held over in Japan for a lot of cleanup that took place. And there was a lot to clean up, not only in Japan, but also in China, staying sometimes a year or two, and it sounded like he stayed for a period of time and missed a lot of the ticker tape parades and celebrations, but it didn't stop him. He came back, went to work, and those traditions that he learned at an early age at 17, I'm sure served him well in his professional career and personally. married for 58 years. I don't know many people, period, nowadays that can say that. But as a veteran and enduring what he went through, to be able to go through that and then to see his family blossom over time, it's just a remarkable story. It's an American story. It's a Troy story for sure. We continue to see that through many of our Honor of Vets ceremonies here, and it's a privilege to be able to recognize them. So on behalf of the New York State Senate, I do have a proclamation here for you. Thank you for letting me honor him.
Thank you, Jake. I will now ask New York State Assemblyman Scott Bendet and John T. McDonald III to come forward, please.
Let Scotty go first.
It's always challenging going at the end, especially after Senator Ashby speaks and talks about the veterans and their, what they did in their job and such. I'll just add a couple of things. I guess Colonel Walsh said that Fran was a unique chef. I know a young lady named Franny, and her name was Pichet, and now it's a different last name. And I think that she runs the Red Front, and that was a different kind of cooking too, different distant relative. And then the other thing that I noticed is that because he was such a small guy, I think he was lucky he was in the Navy, because if Senator Ashby was on one of those ships, I know he couldn't fit in those beds. And I know that because I slept in one of those beds with Boy Scouts one time. You got to be small to be on the Navy. I think that's a pre-requirement. But on behalf of myself and John McDonald, and I guess John's going to say some stuff, and we'll give you one of these citations too.
Well, good morning, obviously, to my colleagues elected office, to all the different veterans groups who helped bring this event together, to our former Congressman Mike McNulty, and yes, Colonel Fisher, who has been a very steady companion with us for the last 2 years and has always brought thoughtful words, which you'll hear shortly, I'm sure. And I want to thank Steve and our chairwoman for continuing this great service. But, in talking earlier, you mentioned how Dad kind of cheated the system and got in at the age of, 16, right? And also talked about the fact that he was in the belly of the beast. He was really there when it was bad. And he let you know about that too. And I think that's important, because that we sometimes underestimate what our veterans see and what they come home with. You may not see it visibly, but it's there internally. But Colonel Tom Walsh, I have to tell you something. You sharing those little anecdotes, I can't help but think, as an 11-year-old, that somebody who served our country, came home in uniform, and gave that uniform to you, did not inspire you to serve our country. And I think that is something that sometimes is lost as well, is that we don't realize the great contributions that our veterans have made sometimes and the impacts they have, and let that be a lesson for all of us. So to the family, thank you for giving us this opportunity. Do you remember Francis? A great, great servant to our country. Obviously, working at Ford's in Green Island that was part of the rite of passage then. That was when manufacturing was in that little village of Green Island that Michael knows better than anybody else here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll now ask Colonel Fisher, the commander of the Waterville Lead Arsenal, to come forward.
Good morning.
Morning.
So it's a little bittersweet, but Diana, as I look at your face and the emotion I could just see the reverence that you have for your late father. And I thought I was pretty good at 19 years old. I was actually commissioned before I could drink. I was commissioned at 19, but it pales in comparison of a story. If you look at the story and say, "Yep, before I was 21, I would join the service. I would sail halfway across the world. I would be on a ship that would defend my comrades in arms who are assaulting and landing on the shores of beaches and lands far, far away, providing overhead anti-aircraft cover for those young men and Marines storming across the shore. I would stay there and fulfill my duty for another set of holidays, and I would do all that before I come home and legally have a beer." Just what a amazing remark that your father started off with on his journey, and really learning the values of service, others before self. In time, you have made the mention of, what inspired you to serve and putting on that uniform from him. One of the things that inspired me to serve, and I was just growing up in Korea, my dad came home and it was Operation Team Spirit, and there was a helicopter hovering right across the golf course when we were living over in our quarters. It was an Apache 64 helicopter. This was in the early 90s, so that was the latest innovation of technology. My dad was coming up to the front door of the house, and he was dressed in all his chemical gear, MOP level 4. So that means the charcoal suit, the gas mask, camouflaged. And I said, "I want to join the Army, but I don't want to do that." So, definitely, family members and veterans groups definitely have an impact on, what inspires the next generation to serve. And I think Francis talked to several members even during his time at Ford Motor Company, and I'm sure some of those, individuals, departed to either continue manufacturing there or found service either through the Army Reserve or the National Guard as well. Just an incredible service and love story for a nation that, I reflect on what 9/11 meant to me, and I was in the service at the time, and what World War II and the bombings of Pearl Harbor, probably he was about 13, 14 years old, that really does to, a young individual who sees he's going home, he sees what's happening to the nation and says, "You know what, when it's my turn, I'm gonna raise my right hand and I'm gonna make a difference, not only for my community, but some other individuals across the globe." So, Diane, on behalf of Watervliet Arsenal, as Tom knows very fondly, we have a strong connection to the Navy there, but also you see the American flag that flies high on 787. It pays a tribute to your dad as well. So as you continue to drive up and down, and I know my cardinal directions, it does drive to Green Island. Yes? Yeah, all right. Absolutely. And so hopefully you just look at that flag and just solemn reminder of your dad's service to the nation and our continued service to the nation of what we do in defense of freedom and democracy across the globe. So thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Colonel Fisher. Could you stay up front for a second, Tom?
Kels, don't we have a certificate for him? No? Anyway, we want to honor Colonel Fisher today. He was the colonel from the Arsenal that really supported this function here today. And we're going to miss him here. The colonel of the Arsenal has got a very important job. And he has all the people and all the production going on at the Arsenal. And I know what it is. I was chief of manufacturing. I had 1,300 people working for me. And I had the responsibility of all them people, but he had the overall responsibility of everybody in there and all the production going out of the arsenal. I only had to answer to the commander. He had to answer to generals. So it's behooves him to do a good job in getting the production every month. And, you know, yeah, and on the arsenal, they have a mansion that the commanders used to live in. But Colonel Fisher didn't live in that. He come over to Rensselaer County and bought a house here, and he's living here. So I don't know, that mansion over there, a general would visit the arsenal and visit the colonel at the mansion and wonder how a full colonel has got a mansion and he's living in an apartment. I don't know, they're not using the mansion. Unfortunately, it was a beautiful building. I was into it many, many times. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. So I'm going to ask Colonel Fisher, you want to say a couple words?
So thanks, Colonel Walsh. You know, it's also, you know, when we come to these events and I see veterans continue to wear their service uniform, Tom, you know, remind me of my dad. My dad's favorite uniform was his dress blues. I have, you know, a picture of my late father with American flag right there in our eating area at home in his dress blues. But yes, I'll answer two things. These ceremonies were my non-miss events. And I missed one or two, and for me, that's a little bit too many. And I really enjoyed coming to these events personally for me. This assignment here was first without my father. So it was really offered an opportunity to grieve, grow, and learn. To grieve in a new environment, continue to heal, to grow and find new places, new spaces, for me to meet with just wonderful people and organizations, and then absolutely let me learn just a little bit something about manufacturing and about the rest of America, which I think military service allows you to move around. Much to my demise, I've moved around about 20-some times in my life already, doing one more. But it's really been a learning and humbling experience. So, Tom, thanks for being a fabric of that and allowing me to work through that piece. And yes, if you did read the Times Union article, we are divesting of the housing on post. That's only because so we can increase the manufacturing space on the arsenal. So if you read that in the paper, the Army asked us to divest of the housing. It's beautiful housing. But we're limited in the scope and nature of what we could do at Waterville Arsenal, our current footprint. I'll tell you the demand for what we do, the products of what we make, and the time and speed of delivering we're delivering now are probably the greatest we've done in quite a long, long time. And so we the Army decided to set a core path to do that. Well, there's about $1.7 billion of planned capital investment that will go into the arsenal over 30 years. A large part of that will start on the backside. Tom would be excited to hear about this. Is about a $280 million manufacturing facility that'll be on the backside of 155, right over the overpass that goes into Colony and between Waterville. So that will happen, I tell you. And then the workforce there is just tremendous. We've seen it continue to make strides, and with also hiring talent from our community partners with Hudson Valley, with the Haas Gene Tech Center, right there bringing on folks. Last year, we had 2 high school individuals start the program, continue to progress, and we have several more. So I just want to say thank you from the Fisher family. I'll see some of you on the 25th for allowing us to be incorporated into the Rensselaer County. And if you see me or other 2 younger kids with more hair than I do, please stop by and just say hi. We won't be strangers out in public. And again, thank you for allowing me to participate in these events.
Thank you, Colonel, and good luck with all the posts in the future. Joe Simonek will be presenting the Rensselaer County Honor Deceased Veteran plaque at this time. Will the committee members please rise? Thank you, Joe. Please stand for our closing prayer.
Day is done, gone the sun, from the lake, the hill, and the sky. All is well. God's compassion, dignity, and strength watch over this veteran and his family. Bless him and grant his family comfort and everlasting peace. Amen.
Retire the colors. Sam. 2. This concludes our Honor a Vet ceremony for this month. Thank you for coming to honor our deceased veteran of the month of July, Francis A. Pichet. Please join us for our next Honor a Veteran ceremony scheduled for August 12th. Before we go our separate ways, we'll be taking a few family photos and then meeting outside at the county flagpole to raise the flag in Francis's memory. Thank you again.